Hey, welcome everyone to the Sketchzone Podcast. I'm Carlos Gomez. That's Charlie B. Williams.
What up? I'm here. I'm happy to be here.
That's Jack Kasperzak.
It is. Hi.
Look at Charlie's face.
It is. It is. Hi. I'm Jack Kasperzak.
You're gonna learn today.
Welcome everyone to the Sketchzone Podcast, a podcast that makes your mother happy.
There it is.
If you have any questions for anyone on the show, that's me, Jack, or Charlie, you can go ahead and use the Sketchzone hotline 408-758-753-8248. That's 748-753-8248, 408 Sketch 8. International callers, please use 011-408-753-8248. Or you can go ahead and interact with us in the chat. If you're watching live on Twitch or live on YouTube, we are here and we will listen to your problems.
Yes.
With that being said, let's go ahead and get into.
Oh, we're going right into it.
Let's go to the canvas here and let's get started. I believe every day's a good day when you paint.
That's right, kids. We're going to go ahead and rock this thing. Last week, we were talking about swamp. Nope, that's not right. Not swamp monster shoveling snow. That was 2 weeks ago. We're talking about cheetah, jester, snowboarding, hostile, alienated, and wasted.
You're welcome.
So let me go ahead and say that Charlie came back and handed us a big pile of words.
I'm a wordsmith, Carlos.
Let's see what the nation did.
The nation went crazy.
The nation.
I mean, this is a bizarre one, man.
This was a really fun week.
Looking through these. I was looking through them all week.
They're pretty weird.
So let's see.
Like
Bad art corner. Bad art corner. Okay, so. Oh, no. I was gonna say he did 2 weeks. He did 2 weeks combined, but no, the snowboarding thing. Yeah. So there is a cheetah and a
giant.
Yo, Bad Out Corner, you're awesome. This he's so big.
Yeah.
The elf is really small.
All right, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
On a snowball. But look at the cheetah's face.
He's
He's like a Thundercats character.
Yes.
Right?
I couldn't place it. Yes. He'd be like, oh.
Not so good.
Oh.
All right, let's see. We got Jerome Cab. Let's find out who this is. So
that jester has a bad case of head.
Jerome Cabanatan. Jerome Cabanatan.
So I'm taking the cheetah took the jester's liquor
and hat.
And
it's a designer jester hat. D&G.
What is that stand?
It's like a full track.
Dolce Gabbana?
Is it Dolce
Gabbana?
Okay. Yeah, okay, cool.
Someone likes shopping.
Wow.
Hello.
Good job, Jerome.
Hey.
Maestro, please.
That
Shiloh.
That cheetah is just possessed.
Yeah. Look at his hands. He got the gloves with the fingers cut out, like he's about to whoop on somebody.
Rash. He's only getting better. He was already fantastic. But Shiloh, I can see like he's playing with brushes. Like this dude is killing it. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Put the gesture in the snowboard.
Shiloh.
It's great. It's good work.
Let's see. I look forward to these canvas.
Again, catching the reality of this bizarre thing.
Okay, legit. Doesn't the cheetah look like Hobbs?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
The face, like, it's awesome.
All right, let's see. Me.
Well.
We got a
You got really
cheetah
Hey,
that's
this-
mooning.
Is this a female?
family show?
It's mooning the crowd. It's alienated.
Cheetah's face, the eyes you drew. Why did you draw him like you drew him wasted for real? But he's like,
drunk.
but he's blacked out wasted. Like he don't know,
Right.
or he or she. I can't tell. What
Yeah.
you don't
He's
know
angry.
where she is.
He or she
is.
is angry. This is whoever
Angry?
you want to be.
It don't seem angry. I'm not getting angry from
Hostile.
this.
Hostile.
I'm getting
invited.
wasted. Look at my booty.
Yeah, it's like a come hither face, which makes it even more like uncomfortable.
But
The dude, the silhouette of dude in the background pointing at her like, look, she's doing it.
He's alienated. He's so angry when he's drunk.
Picked up one of the snowboards from the shed. Look.
Sketchbook Jack with Taxi Cab Confessions.
Yeah,
You
Jack.
want to talk about pervy? Look at the outfit in
Yeah.
this one.
I was gonna tell you, Jack.
Wait,
This one feels like
Oh, yeah.
straight shot from HBO.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this evokes like I've seen this before.
Yeah.
I love it though, because the depth of field here, and then the shining on the
Yeah, tell me how you
windshield.
did your background. Is that how'd you do?
You kind of those bokeh lights are really easy to do. You just kind of get. I mean, you can draw dots, but there's like a scatter brush that you just kind of, a bunch of spheres, and then shift color, add some outer glow.
So it is drawn. I
Yeah.
They came out
Picture?
fantastic.
It was good. Yeah.
I was waiting to see Tupac and Biggie get shot.
Yeah. And this cheetah don't like his life.
No, he's pissed that
his life.
he used to be a track star runner, and now he's got to drive cabs.
That guy's a cab. Welcome.
I used to be in the Olympics.
I knew you
Could have
could give
been
an
a
accent.
contender.
Yo, where is he from?
I don't know. That kind of was like French Russian, but aren't cheetahs from Africa?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then we got Pat Mast, who came in with this one.
That's
This
like a
is
video
so
game,
well
man.
done. Yeah,
This
this
is-
is
yeah.
very well done.
This one's like they're like having a snowball fight with their tails.
And the bottles are strapped to the boards.
Just in case they want to they get thirsty.
Look at the dark circles under his eyes. He's been drinking for a long time.
Oh yeah. See, he's blacked out too. You don't even know he don't even know he's not even supposed to have two snowboards. They're doing it wrong right now.
That's what happens when you have four legs.
You know, they're like, why can't I use two snowboards? Sir, why don't you just buy the skis? And then he growls at him.
Because I'm going to need 4 skis. Anyway, good job, Pat Mast. This is very well done.
Well, I'm doing it's a hoodie week. Yeah. I like the way
All
it
right.
looks.
All right, so let's see. Let's see. We're going to use the character design shuffle. So obviously we're going to keep character and we're going to keep outfit.
Jack should pick this week so he can save it. I feel like Jack
Character, outfit, action. Do we want to keep it simple or do we want to go deep?
I think a little bit simple. I gotta say, we did have some pretty funny outputs on this one, but
Yeah.
it wasn't easy. And you get a little kind of, I don't know what the word is.
All right, so
It's still a little bit simpler.
Yeah.
I shuffled and it says oyster, doorman, tumbling.
An oyster doorman?
Yeah.
Yo.
I'm game. This is funny. This is funny.
Jack's
All
like, I got something. Oyster. What does an oyster look like again?
This just like a little shell with like a little blob in the middle.
Yo, you can give a bow tie. Yo. The base, the shell is like a big ass.
Good evening, man.
Give him a tuxedo.
Good evening. He's always like
I will
barking up
shoot you now.
pearls. Little pearls are flying out as he talks.
Can you imagine if he's mad? He's just spinning pearls and shit. Well, I never.
Why I never.
Why do we laugh
Right.
before we have any pictures?
Oyster doorman tumbling.
I like that. I like 3 seems to be a good number of things.
It is. It's
Yeah, I agree.
Somebody's gonna get mad. Somebody's not getting into the club next week.
Yeah, who's tumbling? We didn't even talk about that.
That's him throwing somebody out.
Big on! Big on!
Oh, this is why we should use the grease pencil. We need to make little
2-second, little gifts.
Yeah, gifts.
Big on! We gotta have the broccoli dude. I know what to do!
Oh, man.
That might get me to draw more so I can figure out how to bring him to life.
Oh, it's done downloading. So let's talk about grease pencil.
Ooh, okay.
So before the show, Charlie was venting about how he's really annoyed that people discover software that he's known about for 10 years because he's the original hipster.
I am hipstering a little bit. I'm not trying to be. I'm very aware at my but given how people can be, how us artists can be so. You heard it here first. I don't know. I did the same thing, but kind of no. Like they look down. They've looked down on games for so many years, right? And I think people are finally understanding what maybe people in the game industry kind of knew like 3 or 4 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago. They're like, man, this shit's really starting to look really, really good. And it's cool to see everybody go more mainstream with it, but we talk about bigger issues with 3D and people discovering new things and different industries using 3D in different ways. But yeah, the whole real-time rendering thing is really taking off. Besides the Unity and Unreal.
So explain to folks, just in case they don't know, what's the difference between rendering and real-time rendering?
Ooh, okay, cool. Short and sweet version of it is, if you think about games versus animation, right? If you're making an animation, that's usually you're using a 3D program. You make something in your 3D program, and then you have to wait for it to render, right? You have to wait for the computer to build it. In a game engine, you're working inside of an editor that allows you to interact with lighting and animations and stuff like that in real time. So if you hit play, it plays right away. The computer doesn't have to build it at all. And that's how you play a video game, right?
Right.
You're watching a real-time movie, if you will, at will, and you're interacting with that. And then when you play your video game, you're just playing that editor over and over again without having to like sit there and wait for it to render. So now what's happening now is games and film have been like this for many years, right?
So if you're listening on iTunes, he's holding one hand high up and the other hand high down.
Thank you, Carlos.
High down.
Low down. Low down.
Yeah, I was gonna let it rock. Exactly.
I've been on the high down for a long time.
For long years.
Then my dog left me and I got flat tires on my truck.
You know what I thought about?
I'm on the high.
I thought about Oprah Winfrey in the color purple. I never thought I'd have to fight. Anyway.
I loves Harpo. Lord knows I do.
Beat her. What should I do? Beat her. That was the worst thing Daddy could ever tell that dude. The worst thing.
Caught an ass whooping.
He's not listening to me. Beat her. So bad. Anyway, now games are slowly over the years. Editors have become more sophisticated. Rendering has been a lot better. GPUs have gotten a lot better. Processing power in terms of the chipsets and stuff like that in your computers are amazing. So that allows all the games that you may play, to look really, really good. So now that has been moving into film, right? It's been coming into pre-visualization, being able to see stuff right away from a guy who works in film is amazing, right? We all went to school for animation and more film type stuff. And the best part of what we do is like the end product, is seeing it at the end. But imagine if you worked in games like I have for years, you get to see that stuff as it's happening all the time. You don't have to wait for a particle effect to render. You don't have to wait for lighting to or shadows to like come into stop being blurry and come into being nice and crisp. You see all that stuff in real time. And before they used to look just kind of okay or kind of low res. Now things look very cinematic, very photoreal. And companies are starting to build game engine renderers, real-time renderers, and stick them into these 3D software that, you know, motion graphics artists use, that animators use, that, you know, VFX artists use, so that they can view their stuff sooner, so they can get the shot faster. So that's been the whole notion of like real-time rendering. And Epic, in conjunction with ILM, I think it was ILM Labs, that's their VR division, right, Jack?
Yes.
Yeah, is it ILM Lab? ILM Lab X or whatever? So I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's ILM Lab.
ILM Labs. So that's ILM, Industrial Light and Magic's VR studio. Been working with Epic, who made Unreal Engine, and they finally figured out how to make what's called ray tracing in real time. So they did a scene from Star Wars at the Game Developers Conference this year. This is slowly starting to make its rounds to other industries, because this has already happened like a month ago or so. But now that whole like tech demo is starting to move around to other industries, like the motion graphics industry and the broadcast industry, and everybody's like, you know, flipping their shit because it looks amazing, which it does. You can't tell if it looks just like the movie in terms of like how it looks, you know. So in a couple of years, you're gonna start to see a lot more of these different type of programs be able to render things in real time. We not have to wait or not need for a big huge render farm. That means a bunch of different computers that are all networked together to render one image or to render one sequence or whatever. You can do it in real time. So it's been really, really cool. It's just that I had a little bit of a hipster moment, because now when I listen to some of my favorite podcasts and read other stories, they're talking about things I've been hearing for the last couple of years, like they're like brand new. And it's like, I told my people at work, well, it's mainstream. Here we go. We're probably gonna get an influx of like work. We're gonna get an influx of work now. Can you do it real time? You know, so it's cool, but it was funny at the same time. So yeah, so that's what it is. It's looking really good. But yeah, there's these two new. There's a new company that was at NAB, and they have a software called URender, which is for Cinema 4D, and it puts a game engine type render inside of Cinema 4D. So basically, it takes over your viewport. When you apply a glass texture, it applies right away. I put a link. I'll give Carlos a link for the show notes so you can watch a YouTube video of it. It's really, really cool. And I'll give one to you guys too, Jack and Carlos, so you guys can see this too and describe it. But like, it's really, really cool. The website is called u-renderer.com, so you can check it out. So
how would that, in After Effects, how would that become, what's the benefit of?
Okay, so say you have a scene that has, I don't know, you know, a glass orb on a pedestal, right? Usually what would happen is like you would tell your 3D journalist or your 3D model or whatever to like, you know, make the scene, and he'd make the scene, make the glass look amazing, trial and error through rendering. And then if you want to use an After Effects, you would export out passes of it. Basically, you would cut the scene up into like layers and then give it to the After Effects guy to composite it if you're a motion graphics industry, right? Because motion graphics artists use After Effects. But you have to wait for all that stuff to render out and render. Right. Imagine it's as easy as saving out a JPEG or a TIFF, and you really just had to wait for the time it takes to export out those different passes rather than render those passes out. because you can do that in Unity and Unreal now. I make a really cool temple scene and say I want to export out as an EXR. I'm not really rendering it. I'm really going to my camera and saying export these to passes, and however long it takes to export that EXR sequence. Let's say it still takes, an hour, right? Let's say it takes an hour if it's a big, huge 20-second sequence or I don't know, 5, whatever, math's off. Anyway, let's say it takes an hour, right? Because Unity can take that long. That's an hour rather than waiting, 20 hours for a full scene. And that's like an hour to render out a scene rather than like 40 hours worth of scene. Like there's a scene we have now, a forced scene, everything leaves, transparencies. That takes like maybe 2 hours to export. Maybe sometimes. And if it's a smaller scene, it'll take like 15, 20 minutes to export. But if we render that same scene out in Max Maya Cinema 4D, we don't have a render farm. It could take a weekend to render out, depending on And this is I have a test scene now that I rendered out at work that took my artists, 10 minutes to export out. And the test scene was a forest with a running brook through it, like watery brook through it, like a river. And it had like a horizon, right? That scene, and it was like, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, but it's water. All the water had reflection and everything. That little like sequence only took them like 15, 20 minutes to export out, and that's because it's exporting out each frame, each pass, in an EXR. And then like I exported out 5 or 6 passes with it, ambient occlusion, specular, roughness, all that good stuff. And then I could take all those passes. And lately I've been using Fusion because Fusion's been pretty nice. We can talk about that another day, but I've been using Fusion for my compositing, and I can just composite all the things back together, and it's really nice. So it just saves, especially for small businesses. So think about it for small businesses that don't have the money to put into like having 25 computers,
right?
Or don't even have a server room for that type of deal. Or think of like right now you do companies like Pixelplow and other ones like that, and like their online cloud-based rendering services and stuff like that. Or everybody's getting into the GPU renderers and stuff like that. So maybe you have, maybe you don't have a beast computer with 4 or 5 1080s in it because everybody's using Bitcoin right now like crazy. You can't buy 1080 at a decent price, So it just like real time allows you to do things where normally all those things you have to worry about when you're having to render out things.
Right.
You don't have to do that. You can have a nice single GPU machine, and that's all you really need.
And while you're building things and you're spinning it around, it's not. I guess as you're building it, it's faster for you to visualize.
Yep. Yeah. So like today, I was doing portfolio renders out for one of our VR experiences, right? Coming up with really sexy renders for our website. We're doing a bunch of stuff. I'm able to like call over my other designer, call over my other motion person, say, okay, what do you think about this composition? And right away she'll say, well, it was for progressive. Well, can you throw a light on the boat so it looks a little bit better? Instantly, I can do it right then and there, and we could talk about it. Or I could say, okay, cool. I had like a bunch of stuff in the foreground, and I had all that blurred out like a camera, right? So think about camera effects and stuff like that, and like we have all the same like. I can set it to 35 millimeter. I can set it to 50 millimeters. I can go 16:9 with it. I can put a depth of field on it. I can change the draw distance of that, right? So if I want the background to be blurred, but the foreground to be crisp or vice versa, I can do that in real time and don't have to hit render and wait to see what that looks like. So instantly I can pull over.
That might be the one thing that gets me back into 3D is because I remember being in school, you build what was it? We would build like the Notre Dame, whatever. What's the word I'm looking for? Cathedral. Thank you. So we're building this big fancy cathedral, and then you would, you'd try to, figure out what angle you want, and then you click render, and then for just that one picture, it would be like an hour and a half. And it's just it does not do good for my ADD. That's why
yeah,
I
there's a lot
love
of waiting. Yeah,
That's
why I love Flash, because you do Command Enter and boom, you're off and running, and you're able to like take a look at stuff. Or like if you're drawing in Photoshop, you put it down and you know exactly what it looks like. Now if you're working in 3D and you're building stuff and then you're texturing at the same time, and then even using that into like a motion graphics thing. So say we got together and Sketch Zone was hired to do the new Nike Air One commercial.
All right, cool.
The shoe that we build and that we texture, we can see we don't have to render it anymore. So it's saving so much time.
Think about with clients and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
Yeah.
we never want to do this in a client meeting because now you go down that wormhole of like having.
Oh yeah.
They say-
Because then they're like, oh, it's going to be a piece of cake. That's going to be super fast to do.
But in terms of like changing stuff and stuff like that, like I just sent you guys a video of like that you render working in cinema, so that real-time render working in cinema, where he's changing the lighting on the coffee beans. He has like a coffee bean shot. So that's using. So imagine that. Now you can get close with that with unbiased renders right now, like Octane, or biased renders like Redshift and stuff like that are using the GPU to do that. But there's no samples, it's no blurriness, it's the image. What it looks like is what it is, right? And you can either make it look better or worse. Now, if you keep adding stuff to it, like today when I was making those renders at work, I was turning everything up. Now, technically for VR, that won't happen. So the water shader, I was turning all the reflections and refractions and all that stuff way up. The lighting was turning way up. I was like, everything, the post-processing volumes I had on, I was turning everything up because I'm just doing a still frame, but I'm still able to move around the scene and do all this.
Yeah, that's what's cool about. I mean, you almost wonder like why. So let's talk a little bit about like why this isn't used in big productions. Obviously, you use it in some of the smaller studios use it, but like what do you think is the holdup? Like why some larger studios are not really embracing this?
I think it's what Epic just cracked. I think it's like the level of having like real time, it having ray tracing in it also.
Yeah.
I think now if you've seen that Star Wars,
yeah, I have. Yeah.
That's the only thing that was holding it up. I think for technical directors and all those guys, because don't you think that looked just as good as like
yeah, I mean, of course they picked a subject that was very friendly to a renderer, that was
tiny chrome.
Yeah, plasticky or chromy or glassy, shiny surfaces. There wasn't really anything in there that was soft body, organic, like I could see that being a stumbling block. But for certain projects like that, like a Star Wars or like Speed Racer, man, I remember when we were working on that and like the amount of hours in those renders all pumped through mental ray. Like I feel like some of these real-time renders could just churn that out like instantly now. Like it looks like Speed Racer.
That's awesome.
So with that being said, I'm trying to find it. Sometimes I find these videos on YouTube and other places, these little documentaries. There's a guy, right, who's a filmmaker, and he got rejected by Hollywood because he wanted to make this like dystopian like future, and it's like this kind of this love story. But they were saying, but he wanted to shoot it where most of the scene is CG, and he got a bunch of rejections basically because they said that most of your film is being shot on green screen, and it would cost way too much money CG-wise to do it. So with that being said, he went through and like over the next couple of years tried to figure out a way to not use green screen. The hardest thing I feel,
Right.
And apparently he did. And like sometimes I find videos like this before they blow up. I have to find it for you guys. So I'll find it for you.
I was going to say, what's the name of this?
And because I watched the video and I was like, okay, cool. They're claiming that he shot this whole thing without a green screen. I realized from watching the video and all the experiential stuff I did, they're shooting in front of a big ass screen, right? An actual like TV screen or whatever. So
I see.
So I'm like, this has to be like mixed reality, which is okay. Mixed. If you guys don't know what mixed reality is when the process of using like a Vive and those sensors and some type of real-time engine, right? And where you can superimpose, or you can stand in front of a screen, and basically it's like live compositing via like the HTC Vive or whatever. And I saw a girl hold one of the Vive trackers. Like you can have like a tracker by itself now. It's called like a pup. And she had one. I was like, I see you guys' secret, because you know there's one of those videos where like they're not telling you how they did it, but they're talking about how it's going to be really cool, you know. But I saw her holding a Vive tracker, and I was like, "You think you're slick?" It's a screen, and he showed it at the end of the video too, of like him moving the camera in real time. So the background is like a game engine, I bet, or something like that. But it looked really good. It looked.
Man, you gotta find this.
I gotta find it, like, because it's like. I found it like 2 o'clock in the morning last night, and I sat there and watched the whole video because I was like, "This dude has figured out how to not use the green screens." Like, this is going to change if it's right. It's going to change like everything about VFX. What is it called? I thought it was called "Killing of Green Screen," but I'm getting all type of really bad green screen people.
So how would that work?
I fully haven't figured it out though, Carlos, because they're like,
so the camera's taking him and taking his environment out and dropping him into
So you can do this now. YouTubers do this now when they're trying to show what VR looks like. The hardest thing about a gamer streamer, like on Twitch or something like that, to show VR is that you can't see it because you're in a headset. So what you can do is a thing called mixed reality, where you shoot yourself on green screen, and then the camera, and you hook the camera, your like real live action camera. It's like kind of like Avatar. You hook your live action camera to the in-game camera. So when you move like your DSLR, it moves the camera and screen in the game. So thus when you shoot at the green screen, the game takes over the green screen, and you see the person. So now you can actually see what they're doing in VR. If you look up mixed reality on YouTube, you can see a bunch of these instances. So a lot of streamers and YouTubers do it all the time to show when they're reviewing different VR games. But people are starting. But I think what they did was they saw that, and somehow they worked with this other fabrication company, and I think they made some kind of really cool, not like a green screen itself, but a physical screen, like a huge soundstage screen that their actors are standing in front of. And they're doing something with mixed reality, which I can't. Let me find it. How we killed found it. How we killed the green screen. Film director. All right, here it is. Jack, when you see this like GIF,
this
okay.
Mixed reality stuff is really weird and kind of funny.
Yes. Check that link out.
Wait, this is too much.
What did you find? You find some crazy game?
Yeah. I got it. I'll give you the time code too with the share link. This dude hovering around in his pajamas around town.
Yo, we gotta figure out
like, what are you doing?
We gotta figure out how much of like how long we can show something. Because I see other podcasts do it, like they'll play a music for so long, or
how we killed the green screen.
But look at the background. That's the little GIF. That's all 3D back there. So they got good quality 3D.
Right.
And you see the guy with the green screen where he's standing in front of the green screen? You see that? Where you see like the catwalk and all that stuff, and it's green in the green background? I'm on the website. Look at the website. It's all got like GIFs on the front. It's the Tumblr page.
Yeah.
So you see the guy standing in front of the green screen with the catwalk and all that stuff? That's not a green screen. They did that on purpose to fake it. That's like in-game, basically a green environment set against the catwalk. You know what I'm saying? And he said, "I bet you thought this was green screen," but it wasn't. It was like,
well, right, but like part I'm confused.
Right, it's weird, right? I don't understand how they do it because he says in the documentary, maybe we just shoot against a flat. He's thought about doing just flat like pictures, like flat paintings.
No. He's got a green screen. There's a shot of them walking into the room.
It's a green environment in the game.
No. There's a shot where they not all the stuff where he's sitting in the
For the
chair.
record, green screen and green environment is basically the same thing.
No, it's not.
No. The
How
screen
dare
is
you?
it's like a tarp.
Right.
His is like a 3D environment that it's
Right.
moving.
It's
So
like
he's got
just a
walls
green.
painted green.
It's a
Just like
it's
a
not
green
wall.
Maya cube that he's like sitting in CG.
Yeah, it's
Like
that's not a really
fake environment that's green.
Yeah,
But no,
yeah.
at 56 on this video, at 56 seconds, they literally walk into a warehouse where there's a green room. But then I can't tell because the fucking tables in the foreground look real CG.
Now go all the way to the end, Jack. At the very last shot, you could see it. All that is not even a background. Even the catwalk's not real. Like
It's loading. My internet is terrible.
Go to 12 minutes and 18 seconds.
Okay, it's there.
Because he says a bit, and then he moves the whole thing. Like you realize it's like he toggles.
Yeah.
The viewport.
Well, no, I get. You can see the matte line around it, but hang on.
All right, so he's got the.
I don't understand it still. I'm impressed. I like their level of CG, but I don't understand. Like, turn off that.
Gotcha. There's like a massive monitor behind him.
It's a monitor. So we
Got
keep green screen. I'm sorry, guys. Think of
when he
big ass monitor. Yeah, he's standing in front of. They fabricated this other company. It's them and the other company is called Matrix something, Matrix Digital or something. Matrix.
So yeah, hang on. Pause on that image you had of him in front of the green. So for those of you who are not on YouTube, so it's basically like what you see in any movie special effects. It's a guy standing on what appears to be some pretty, built out prop set design physical stuff that he's standing on, and then behind it is the green screen. But what's happening actually is, now skip to the very end at like 12:18. And it's difficult to tell exactly what happens until he starts to walk away. So he's talking, and then all of a sudden the whole background just goes nuts. Like stuff starts spinning around, moving, and it isn't until you start to realize that the platform he was standing on was CG. But then there's a brief moment, just like 1 second, at the very tail end of that zoom out. You can see the edges of. Hang on, keep going.
Screen, right?
Yeah, keep going. Right. Okay. See.
Right
okay. So there's an LCD lighting him, and then on the left side you can actually see. Actually, keep playing. There's a better shot of it.
Right.
Keep going. All right, right there.
Right there.
See how we can see the ends of? It's a massive monitor.
Yo, good find, Jack.
So he's standing in front of, and the only physical thing he's standing on is like a 4x4 metal cage that sort of looks like the grates, because all the grates in the background are fake.
They're fake.
And they've just put in a green wall in Maya or whatever real-time renderer they're using to sort of cheat your eye. Man, that's pretty cool. So
they're doing the same thing what you saw on YouTube. They're putting a tracker on the camera that's connected to a camera in the engine. Yeah. And they just have to light and shoot people in front of it.
Yeah. So the weird part is like, so obviously the stage is effectively confined by the width of that screen. So I can assume when they have like a moving or a tracking shot, the dude just stays in place and the background moves, right?
I guess. Which
and like
weird, right? Like a sci-fi.
I mean, if you look at all the clips from the short, most everything is from like the knees up. They kind of avoid showing.
And they were saying so give background on his like movie. His movie is like these two people met, they fall in love, but every night they meet on this catwalk. And the city is like this sci-fi city below, but they don't ask each other about what it took for them to get to meet each other each night. They just live in the moment it's really sappy, like a love story type deal. So I think a lot of it's happening on this catwalk or up in the rafters.
Does the guy sing and say, "I shake my little tush on the catwalk, on the catwalk, yeah"?
He didn't even give you crickets. He let you
dare
rock.
you? How dare you? I was gonna wait the entire time.
That was the most awkward moment
man.
we've had on this show ever. I think it killed Jack. I literally think it killed Jack.
You guys don't know quality entertainment when you see it.
I'm gonna save that one as a sound clip.
Yeah, you have to stretch out the silence.
So to bring this conversation full circle, this is what real time brings you. It starts to get people to start to think out of the box,
right,
on what can be possible. Now, the one we haven't talked about is like the level of 3D. All the 3D that, to me, what I've seen looks really nice. Looks really, really good. Because if it looked bad or looked too gamey or whatever, I can't see all of it because it's a very controlled thing of this like cityscape. But when I watched the actual video, I thought it was like, oh, it looks kind of cool, you know. So when you get past the like, oh, it looks cool, now I'm just wondering how they did it and how good the actual film is going to be. But that's kind of like where it could go, you know.
I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, if you think about, I mean, they're seeing the results live in camera, you know. It's like you do this
with whatever camera they want to shoot with, and basically,
I mean, this it could be pretty. I mean, this could be pretty cool even for like. I mean, obviously they've pretty much just stuck to like environments and pretty static things that you don't really interact with. But you know, if planned right, you know, and you were doing like a Transformers movie or something, and you previs out this giant robot interacting with a human, and then you went and shot it, you know, and the human obviously would have to sort of fit the role and, you know, align themselves with the video effectively. But like,
what if you made the screen bigger? Like, what if you really put on a huge sound? Like the screen is like building size now.
Yeah,
you know. But it's kind of cool too because now, what people they used to just have paintings in the background, but you could tell because it would just be flat as soon as you turn. But if it's hooked to the in-game camera, you get the parallaxing. So
yeah, they're getting instant like camera feedback,
and the in background image is like working with the person who's walking. So it's kind of but they can still shoot on a red or whatever they want.
Yep, pretty cool.
Oh yeah, so that's the whole power of real time. I'm hoping that like what other companies are doing, which like with that render, which is like, you know, packaging these game engines and stuff like that into the renderers, and then like instead of me getting Octane, I'll just do this renderer because it works better for real time and I can still get passes and stuff. And the idea of not rendering anymore, but let's start using the word exporting, you know, as a thing. Sounds really cool.
Yeah, because if you don't have to wait for rendering,
right?
Well, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's already doing good for previs. So they've already did previs and used Unreal for the last Star Wars movie or the movie before last, for previs stuff. But
so I mean, when I was working on a few projects that we were doing real time or game stuff, one of the issues always was that you had to animate or produce your assets and your animation and camera work in a dedicated 3D program, and then you would effectively export to an engine. Like some of these are real-time renderers that plug into an already standalone.
So that's the new one, right? Okay. So the current thing is like the Unity and Unreal, right? And that's what the guy said at NAB. They were using Unreal because Unreal just came out with Unreal Studio, right? Which is their answer for everybody else other than game. Architectural rendering, all that good stuff. They got about 72% throughput now between now and last year of how many people are actually using it, especially in archviz industries.
Yeah, I could see that being really big.
And then automotive industries also has been using it big. But that's the big thing he said. And that's the problem I'm having right now is I want the lighting, I want the look of Unreal, but I have a guy who's really good in cinema. But now I can't use him and all his skills and stuff like that because you have to stay in Unreal and you have to render in Unreal. And even Unreal tells you, even though they give you EXRs, you kind of just do all your posts in Unreal, right? Or there's a full like kid show done in it, called Safari. They said the same thing. We just don't need compositing, so because we're all in Unreal, and that's what URender is doing. So URender is saying we don't need the animation from Unreal. We just like the real time. And as a company, we realized we want real time. So they wrote their own ones and they stuck it back into cinema because that's where they want to be. So that's what I like. That's the cool thing I like about this whole thing is that like someone's finally doing that. I mean, you still have those other programs like Clarice that's kind of doing those things, but like I like that they said, okay, cool, let's stick it in cinema because that's where we want it to be. Let's get it so that we can actually export out EXRs and stuff so that I can give it over to my compositors, but we can start to animate back in something we're used to. You know what I'm saying? And that's the really, really big thing now. So imagine this trend takes off, right? And you have other real-time renders show up for Maya, for Max, for Cinema, and they start like outpacing Octane and Redshift. Well, I'm not going to use Redshift. I'm not going to use Octane. I don't want to render. I'm going to use URender. Or I'm going to use Pixelberg, which is another one, right? And they just say, I just want to use it in Maya. I think that's when you start seeing it even more, Jack. When ILM or whoever can say, oh, we can still use Maya. We don't have to go and change our whole pipeline. And that's what they were saying for these guys that did URender. They didn't want to change their pipeline anymore. And they wanted to go back to something they liked. And all they needed was to be able to.
And that's a really big answer to that question is because all these big places, they already have something that's proven. They've used it, they've tested it, they've tweaked it. A lot of times they write their own plugins. They adjust the software to fit their specific needs. So now that it works, now that we're delivering projects, we can't introduce anything else right now because it's only going to ruin the flow of the project. And it costs a lot of money, not necessarily just hardware and software, but just human capital.
Yeah. And even me who like is totally comfortable in whatever game engine you give me, I don't care what it is. I like the idea of being back in Max or Cinema, in this case, Cinema or even Maya, but having all that same feel. It'd be like the best of both worlds. I'd be like, yeah, this is what I wanted, and then with all the substance and stuff, like the substance and all the different, texturing programs and all that good stuff that's out now, or ZBrush and all the other good stuff. Like if I knew that I can just, everything gets done in Maya, not all the rigging and all the animation tools that people love about Maya. Imagine they just had a real-time renderer where you can just be like, see it right away, not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Imagine if ArchViz folks, that could be a problem unless Unreal and Epic figure out how to, which I don't think they will, but that you figure out how to truncate that, harness that renderer and turn it into just a renderer and then shove it back into Max.
Well, that's, I think, its biggest problem. I mean, I think
if the ArchViz people realize they can get this same type of like functionality, but they don't have to leave Max anymore.
Yeah.
But why doesn't Autodesk have something like this within?
Well, they're trying. So like Maya has like Viewport 2.0, which is garbage compared to most of these real-time renderers, but you can see that they're trying to get there with utilizing processor and GL and all that stuff to kind of give you active viewport feedback. And it does some nice things, it does active lighting, ambient occlusion, a little bit of atmosphere stuff, and actually it doesn't do ray tracing, but it somehow simulates reflections. But I think the biggest problem that pretty much all of these 3D packages are going to have to overcome is, Unity and Unreal were developed effectively around the renderer, right? They were built as a product to produce real-time, high frame rate imagery. So the entire infrastructure of that package, everything from scripting to animation to modeling to rigging, everything is built around that optimized speed. So the package itself, even when you're producing, not playing back or I won't even say rendering, not when you're playing back, but when you're producing, is still really streamlined. It has to be, right? Whereas with like Maya and Max, and they're really clunky, bulky programs. They aren't concerned about rendering because everything's so compartmentalized, right? It's like, okay, I'm modeling, so all I have to do is perform and show you the model rotating in real time so that you can model well. We're not worried about also showing you textures, also showing you deforming geo, also forming. It's kind of been this. In a way, it's like built totally opposite of what it needs to be. So I think like even if some of these real-time renderers can build a plugin, I don't think it's going to be. It's not going to function the same way because it still has to, even if it's able to render things at real time, like a still frame, it's not going to be able to play in real time because it's still Maya or whatever the main package is doing all of that computing, right? They're not wired really to. I don't know. It would take like a very serious overhaul of effectively of the GL of the viewports in these packages to actually be able to handle it.
One of the other overhauls they did was, and Epic's been really buddy with Autodesk for a while now. So they've had this whole Datasmith beta program going on for a while. They just released a couple weeks into Unreal Studio, like I just talked about earlier. But what they basically did was Unreal basically catered to the AutoCAD, form production design like industry, right? And they rewrote, they basically made their own like export, called it a Datasmith export, right? So now when you if an ArchViz company wanted to use Unreal, they would download Unreal and then they would install a plugin for 3D Studio Max for Datasmith, right? So now you get a new export. So say you get this big, huge AutoCAD engine, right? It's made in like Fusion or AutoCAD or one of those like, or even one of those other type of modeling, it's like Moy or FormZ or whatever those things, where it's not using polygons, they're using it's parametric modeling or whatever it's called. You can bring that into Max, right, and then export it out as Datasmith. So the Datasmith is basically like, think of like FBX or JPEG or whatever. Epic made a new one called Datasmith. It crunches it in a way, and then it just imports it into Unreal. So for the last couple of years, the biggest thing was that was exporting. The FBX would crash, the OBJ would crash, and it's just like the hardest part was getting your objects into Unreal. And now they perfected it. It works amazing. I've taken a full engine that has every part in it inside of Max, right? It's an AutoCAD file, has everything CNC'd out, the whole nine. Like it's like a 25 million poly model. I've exported it out into the Datasmith file format, and that just comes in Unreal. And now I can just texture light it, and it's like perfect. So they've been doing really crazy things with this. Now, this whole thing we talked about, render and stuff like that, I'm wondering if that's going to give Epic a problem, because right now the industry and all the new industries have been like, cool, we just got to work with Unreal and working on Unreal. But what happens, and to Jack's point, that's really good points about the animation, all that good stuff that he was saying, and maybe that's what keeps Unity and Unreal with their edge. Because I'm wondering if people, and I guess because Cinema is a newer 3D program, maybe they're able to write around those things a little bit better. Because I have been surprised at what Cinema can do in terms of the plugins that people have written for it. Like how they ported over the Blender renderer to the Cycles renderer to Cinema and stuff like that. So maybe it's just because Cinema's not as loaded as Maya or Max.
Could be, yeah.
And that's how they're able to get that. I still don't know how they're able to get that real-time engine in there like that, outside of just being the viewport, or let alone being able to export out a true EXR. That's weird because even Unreal has trouble with that sometimes. So yeah, they've been doing a lot. So they've been doing a lot of work, Epic, with Autodesk lately, and just for the last 2 years, right? They're all building up to this point, you know. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out, and how more people are getting, more companies are coming up. Meanwhile, I just think the renderers need to like Octane and Orbix have been like on this whole light field thing, right? And they've been on the whole real time thing, and they've been working with Unity, so they're kind of thinking ahead and stuff like that, and trying to come out, have everybody use like the Orbix file format and stuff like that for all the light field stuff. And obviously those guys over at Magic Leap are doing something interesting with AR and light fields and stuff like that. So that has to work, tie into like this whole real time thing. It's just gonna be interesting, like the next year and a half, what else is gonna come out.
Is Magic Leap working with working in real
so
Unreal, or
I don't know,
their own renderer?
I'm waiting. We're supposed to be getting, we're on the list of developers we get to get one of those like Magic Leap things.
Yeah.
But when you get it, it's almost like working on a trailer. Like, I think there's like all these lock and key things that you have to sign, whatever. So I'm probably won't be able to say anything if we do get it. But I don't understand it yet. We know, like with Apple AR, you know what Apple AR is. That's basically you still using Unity or Unreal in some kind of way and using the architecture on top. I don't know how you're working with Magic Leap yet. It's from buddies that work there. They're saying they use a lot of light field stuff, and they're working with Weta. Weta's working with them a lot, and as well as I think he said ILM or something else like that. So I think they have a different approach to it, but I don't know what they're using. Like it's weird. I don't know. That one I feel like it's gonna be like, gotcha. See, it's really like this. Sorry guys. It's like, but they claim it to be good, so I'm just gonna wait and see. Just gonna wait and see. Those weird Willy Wonka glasses. Nobody talks about the Willy Wonka glasses. I just think of Johnny Depp every time I see something.
Who was it? That was that little old lady on the Star Wars thing where
yeah, that one too.
She's like click, 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 click.
Magic Leap. That's good.
That's funny. Speaking of new software, I'm beta testing Procreate Pocket.
Okay.
What is that for? What is it on? Is it just iPad?
On iOS right now. So that's what it looks like. I'm not going to get too deep into it because I don't know how much they want me to talk about it, but it's very similar.
Really?
Very similar to the iPad version. You got all your brushes, and they got an ungodly amount of brushes.
Can you save?
What do you mean?
How does it save? Can you export it, or like how do you get it off the program? Is it like share to Instagram or something? Yeah.
It's basically all the same functionality of the big version.
Really? It has that much functionality in it?
Yeah. So it has insert a file, insert a photo, take a photo, cut, copy, copy canvas, paste, perspective guides, flip canvas, horizontal, vertical, share as Procreate, PSD, PDF, JPEG, PNG, TIFF.
Dude, do you really think people are going to
get time-lapse replay? It's got time-lapse recording, start live broadcast. It's legit the same exact thing.
But are people really going to use it on this one? You're saying you have to do all this with your finger, though, right? Is there any kind of stylus support?
I don't. I was actually going to take a look because there's a company called Adonit, ADONIT. Adonit. They have styluses that'll work with the iPhone. I just don't know how good the pressure sensitivity is. So part of me wants to get one, but part of me doesn't. I'm just more upset with Apple that they're not working with the iPhone to make the Apple Pencil actually work.
Are you doing anything with the Apple Pencil lately, or is it just like you use it with the iPad and that's it?
Yeah,
I don't hear much.
it works. It works in the what's the iPad 12.9 inch, and then the new one that they came out with a couple weeks ago that they announced in Chicago. It works on that one.
Oh yeah, okay.
But how cool would it be to just pick up your phone and it actually works on your phone?
I think they would sell more copies of that thing.
Yeah, they definitely would. No, what's interesting is a few weeks ago, no, it's probably a couple months ago now, Apple had applied for a patent that basically there's an Apple Pencil that you can use, but you don't need a screen. You just draw on the tabletop. Your computer would pick it up and would know the pressure sensitivity.
Oh, that's game changing.
So just imagine having this and you're just drawing on the table.
Pressure sensitivity is in the tip.
Yeah.
Push harder or something.
Yeah.
Oh, they could change it like
so you wouldn't even
need a Wacom. Ooh.
Yeah, basically.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a couple of companies trying to do that. You know, what was the one that you had where it basically like motion tracked your pen? You had one that didn't really work very well, but
that was the Adobe one. I actually have it over there. So it's basically here. Let me go get it.
What's the tracing one?
Talk about yourselves.
No, it was basically kind of what he's describing, like a pencil thing that as you moved, it would. There was like a little sensor that sat at the top of your notebook or your page that would effectively kind of track your motion. It didn't seem super reliable. Wacom had something kind of like that.
Where you're like tracing or something like.
Yeah, I think that was the Wacom one where it was like a thing that fit on your pen or pencil, and it would take a regular drawing but track
scan or something.
Yeah,
so it was Wacom. It wasn't Adobe because Adobe had their ink and slide thing, which was actually really cool. And it would. The Adobe one was cool because you could draw on whatever, and then
that was the one.
It would save it to the cloud, which was pretty sweet. This is the first one that I got from Wacom, the first wireless thing. And so basically, if you open it up, there's this little. I should plug this in because it's actually really cool. It's just not completely. So this is the little radio receiver. So you clip this onto the top of your paper, and then the pen would then send the drawing data to the radio receiver, and then it would record it on the receiver. And then you would then get the drawing off of that. And then, actually, you know what? I'm going to charge this because I paid for it. I might as well use it. So yeah, the cool thing is it would remember what you drew, and it had like time lapse and all that stuff. And another cool thing is it had these pen fillers.
Oh, cool.
So when you draw on the paper, you would eventually have something drawn and then something digitized. But the thing is, if for some reason, like if you put your hand in the way between the pen and the receiver, it would lose itself. So you would have drawings that didn't line up quite right.
It had to be like a continuous connection.
Yeah.
That's
I'm going to charge this up and play with it a little bit because when it first came out, I was all about it. I was excited.
mm-hmm.
And then...
Do they still sell it?
Huh?
Do they still sell it?
No. That's a collector's item. Or because what happened? Like, they came out with that, and then what happened? Oh, the iPad happened.
Oh, poor thing. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then...
Yeah, everybody, shut this whole department down. We're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you know what happened was those guys were all congratulatory. They had their little thing. They had a little print. And then one of those employees came in with the iPad. It was like,
this will rule us all.
So guys, take a look at this.
Oh, I thought you were showing us something. But yeah.
No.
And then what's funny is Adobe came out with, I have that too. I should go find that too. But Adobe came out with the ink and slide, which I thought was genius. You had the pen and you had the little ruler thing and you'd line things up and draw lines and you can click on it and change it from a ruler to a French curve and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then Apple came out with the Apple Pencil and put the squash on that stuff.
Like, oh, that's cute. Just stunned them.
They're like, oh man.
You done playing? Grown-ups have to talk now.
Yeah. Yeah. So all that to say, I've been a art techno junkie for a while now. And I'm glad that everything has slowed down at least a little bit.
With that, all this drawing and stuff. Jack, you should bring it back and talk about...
Well, okay, yeah. So the whole reason I brought up Charlie being a hipster, and then we talked about... What did we talk about? Real-time renders.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was because I saw this video, and I don't know. Okay, you tell me, why is there a rejuvenated interest in this? Because it's been there. It's been there for a little while.
Yeah.
So before we stop talking all cryptic, so I saw this video. Everybody's gonna be like, "What are you guys talking about?" We're still avoiding actually mentioning.
They're like yelling at us while they're walking or doing whatever.
I saw this video of this 2D animation that was made in a 3D program. It was a kid running, and there was some fire effects and kind of a little action-y sequence. And there were 3D elements in a 3D camera, some actual 3D effects, but the bulk work, the character and all that was 2D, like traditionally animated, and it was done with grease pencil in Blender. So for those of you who don't know, Blender is a free 3D program. And Charlie was open source, not even just free, open source. So if y'all are geniuses, you can mod it to your heart's desire.
Yep, and it'd be yours.
Look what I found.
Oh, you do have one of those. That one.
I do. I told you. These are amazing too.
So amazing you don't use it anymore.
Apple Pencil came out.
Yeah, right. Apple
how much stuff do you have that's collector's items now? And
you should open a museum of the digital pen.
Yeah, what should we call you? Because
poor.
It's like the whole kickstarting thing, but it's
poor.
But it's bleeding into everything else. What did you pull out an Apple?
If you want to go
way back. The box? Why you got the box?
Yeah.
Why you got?
Because
what are you doing? You need to open a museum of Jurassic technology.
This is adorable. Look at the mouse cover.
What?
I don't
know.
Yeah, they used to. No, this was. I got this.
Jack were like.
Yeah, I've been wanting to set this up. I've had this since I lived in Schaumburg.
But yeah, does it work?
Anyway,
does it work?
Yeah.
Okay. Yo! How many sounds do you have over there? Ready to go. So Grease Pencil, it's back.
Yeah. So anyway, I was watching this little animation. We'll drop the link in the show notes of this character kid running and very actiony and camera weapon by and all this cool stuff. But it was the title, was that Blender. So those of you who don't know, Blender is a free and open source 3D program that they've unveiled, I guess, updates. I'm still not following why there's
Grease Pencil 2.0.
Okay, so there's this I don't even know how you call it, this subsection of Blender that allows you, it's effectively like a 2D engine built inside of the 3D world, so you can draw flat, ink and paint with literal, I don't even know is it generating polygons? Is it generating lines?
I think I would call them
vectors.
Yeah, I think they're like literally like splines.
That's like crazy.
Render splines.
So basically, the premise is you can lay out your scene in 3D, or you can even just stack a couple of 2D planes, like old school Disney style, to get fake parallax. And then you can use your 3D camera to sort of maneuver around those things. You can add 3D elements as you will, but there's a cool demo on there that after it's put together and painted, because it's 3D, you can move the lights around in real time, and depending how you've set up your drawings and your planes and your objects and all that stuff, it's like pretty convincing, and you can still get that really 2D look, but with like some of the benefits of 3D and like kind of legitimately, not like these kind of half-assed hacky things that 3D programs have basically been doing up until now. Because this actually has that 2D engine, and then on top of it, which is probably the most intriguing, is you can actually just 2D animate as you please, because you can just pull out the pen or the pencil tool and just start drawing flat on the screen. So no matter what angle you're looking at from your camera, you can draw on it as a 2D plane. But then once it's drawn, it's a 3D object, so you can spin around it and you see the 2D drawing, kind of like how these Quill and VR drawing apps are.
Like a billboard or whatever. Once you have the camera, you just have a big, huge cutout. So he doesn't have any depth, but from the front view, he looks fine, So, like Jack said, all the benefits you have, everything, all the benefits you have of a 3D program, it's all there.
Like lighting, everything. Camera moves,
camera music, fluid systems, particle systems, like physics stuff.
Particle systems, yeah.
You can get and like in that thing that he showed that Jack's talking about, the action sequence. There's like the floor starts breaking out. What did the dude do to make it match his 2D? He just started drawing over all the 3D elements.
Yeah, that was one of the cool things. Is just like you can, if you really want to achieve the 2D look, but you need some help with some dynamic thing or something that was more easily modeled or simulated. Like you've got the 3D environment, you've got the 3D thing there. You can just rotoscope right over it, like live, and then make adjustments. Like, that didn't work. I got to quickly resim this couple of frames, and then you redraw. Like it's just all right there.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy talk.
And it's free.
It's free, guys.
So all you folks out there who are like, I don't have money to buy a 2D program or a 3D program, Charlie can talk for days about this.
I'm wearing
You can run it off of a floppy disk. And for those of you who don't know what a floppy disk is,
I don't even know you can run it over on an Apple II.
Yeah, Carlos can run it on his Adobe Pencil.
With no computer, just Adobe Pencil.
Yeah, guys, that's the biggest thing. When we're talking about all this 3D stuff, even if you're an aspiring artist or you went to school, all your student licenses ran out or whatever, that's really weird because you can get all the other stuff you need just right now. But whatever. But there's no excuses because you can just use Blender. Blender has modeling, it has sculpting, it has particle dynamics, it has lighting,
2D,
it has a game engine. If you want to talk about the whole real-time thing we just spent a half an hour or 45 minutes talking about, you can use Blender's game engine. Blender just updated their game engine. It's called Eevee, and now they have a PBR Unreal-looking game engine in their program.
Come on, son.
Like this, it's like 6 or 7 programs in one. My main I love Blender. I taught it. I evangelized I evangelized it for like years and years. My best friend runs a company that teaches Blender. I did that, talked about it at libraries. I taught it to old people. I taught it to everybody, right? My biggest complaint as an artist is that it has so much stuff in it. And the hotkeys and all the good stuff. It's just like I want it to be like, I don't know how you like streamline something that everybody and their mama just keeps. It's like having a grocery bag or one of those like trash bags that like can have the super flex, and people just keep throwing in really cool features where they're like, that's a cool feature, stick it in there, and then they find something new. Yeah, take out the old feature and stick this new feature in there. It's so feature rich, and for the enthusiast or the up and comer, that's great for you because you don't need Max, you don't need Maya, you don't need Octane, you don't need Unreal, because Blender, you don't need Toon Boon, you don't need any of these things, especially if you're trying to get a job. We always talk about following your dreams, right? Like if you want to work in 2D animation, do you think if you made an amazing a grease pencil, you're not getting a job somewhere?
I think you'd be more valuable because you then have an understanding of 3D as well, or just like general.
Right. It's so
cool. Obviously places don't tend to want you to hit the ground running and know the software they're going to use, but like if you've got the talent, you'll have time to learn it, or they're going to teach you.
Or they'll just do what they did to Jack and say, "Yo, go ahead."
Or they'll just be like, "We like you. You got the talent. Go."
Yeah. They can happen.
They're gonna hand you a floppy disk and be like, "Here's Blender. Go."
Now, Jack, objective question: How do we make this? How do we make these images or these frames more polished? Because based on so it doesn't. It lends itself to like a sketchy pixel test type of.
So, and that's the same problem that Maya has with its Toon shader, which is one of the better ones out there. The ink and paint stuff, but I think they kind of all suffer from the same problem. Is at the end of the day, and it's kind of the same issue we were talking about with real-time engines going into these heavier packages. I think this is sort of a paradox, a problem with the medium is that they were all built around these 3D physical objects that are, based on some sort of data, whether it's point data or vertex data or vector data, whatever it may be. So you're automatically kind of stuck in this 3D world, which is then drawn and interpreted by the viewing engine, right? Whereas something like Photoshop, you're, raster based and bitmap based, it's dropping various levels of opaque pixels on a flat plane, and the program itself was designed, to work within pixels and stuff. So unless Blender or whoever develops a brush engine that's actually working bitmap based and then drops it onto a plane or a piece of geo or something, I don't know how much more
brush engine in here. So maybe it's not even.
And listen to me, don't even waste your time trying to get into these 3D engines or 3D softwares and use the Toon shader, because they're always trash. I hate them.
Then I'm not going to show you something I'm working on.
I mean, if you got something figured out and it looks good, then great. But
yeah, the Mario one looks good.
Well, okay. Here's the thing.
Octane one looks pretty good too.
Here's the thing. I think it's more of a shortcoming. And this is like, I'm gonna preach this to like anybody who's trying to find art. This is my art director coming out. Like,
yes, here we go.
If you're trying to find a style or a look, or you're more likely trying to save time and energy by saying, oh, look, if I only build my Knight of the Round Table one time, and I can animate him and shoot him from every angle, but make it look 2D because I like 2D or because I have 2D backgrounds or whatever it may be. Whatever you're choosing 3D, at the end of the day, you always have to remind yourself and work within the limitations of the medium you've chosen. And this is not just digital. This applies to old school stuff too. Like, you're not about to go try and make something super 3D looking with watercolors because it's just really difficult. Right. And people do it. People have done it, and it's always really impressive when people do. But those are the folks that are really trying to push the medium and push it beyond what it's best at. You use watercolor because it freaking looks like water. Like, you get, you get that like washy kind of color booky effect, and it works really well for flowers, water, stuff like that. So why are you gonna, you started out this journey being like, I'm gonna come up with an art design that's gonna save me time, and then you go into this thing and you literally fight the technology, and you're not saving yourself any time at all. So I think people, back to your point, is why they look like garbage, is I think because people come into this with the mindset of like, well, I'm just going to use everything I like about 3D, like we talked about with Blender, everything I like about 3D, and then I'm just going to apply effectively this filter that sort of makes it look like 2D. But they don't actually shift their mindset into what 2D looks like. They're still doing all these crazy things that 3D does really well that just look really dumb, not only in the 2D world, but with a 2D like filter. Part of the reason, a lot of times is it's like trying to detect edges and shapes and stuff. And like a 2D artist very rarely is going to do this like crazy 360 head move thing where you're going to see every angle and all these changing lines. So there's like a lot of stuff like that just not only doesn't look good, it's very unnatural for the medium in which you're trying to achieve. So, it's like, why not work with, who's the guy that we featured at Magnus Muller? Like, go check out Magnus Muller. Like, that dude, he understands the limitations of 2D in a 3D world, and he is totally embracing it. Super successful. Like, he knows the look he's going for. Art directed really well. The ones that don't work are the ones that don't take into account the medium in which they're working in. And I think it's really more of a shortcoming of that than it is of the technology. But back to your original point, I would agree. A lot of the toon renderers are pretty terrible. But again, it's what you feed. It's a lot about what you feed it, what you pump into it. You can't take a highly detailed 3D car and just expect a 2D drawing car out of it.
Yeah.
So the Octane stuff looks really good lately. But yeah, you're right. You're right though. But I think too. Just talking on the grease pencil thing, I think one of the other things is that like Blender's always been in this cycle of like, you get to a point where like the Blender Foundation and stuff like that puts a lot of effort into making. I usually once a year they do a short film to show off the power of Blender, and I think there's this guy Daniel M. Lara who's been doing the grease pencil stuff and been doing really cool pencil tests and stuff like that. And this was like his way of showing off the power of the grease pencil. So I think that's why we got this hero short film that we got, so that now the grease pencil has its flagship for the year or whatever. And this is probably going to go far, and people outside of the Blender community are going to see it, and it brings people to the Blender community just like we're talking about it now. And I think that's the one cool thing about Blender that it does. It has this whole like, I'll show you type of mentality. Look at this rest of the industry. Look what we did here, so that, and it brings eyes. I think that's how a lot of people see this Blender stuff. They wouldn't see the really cool update that happened a couple months ago, or the Eevee update that happened with the PBR engine, but they will see this hero one, which will spark interest, and then next thing you know, they're going to start looking at all the other stuff that Blender has to offer. So last year, Blender won the electronic theater at SIGGRAPH.
Blender.
For their animated short called something Space Laundromat or something like that, which is a really cool like artsy short. It looked great.
Cosmos.
Cosmos. Yeah. So that's cool. So I like it.
And that was done with grease pencil?
No, that was Blender itself.
Oh, okay.
Hero, the animated short called Hero, It's the Blender Grease Pencil Showcase by Daniel M. Lara.
All right.
And it's being backed by Blender, Blender Cloud, and cloud.blender.org. I put a link in our thing to Cartoon Brew. They did a nice little write-up on it. Blender introduces feature quality 2D animation tools within its 3D pipeline. So, but they have a nice video linking straight to the hero thing. If you haven't watched it, it's actually a really good animated short that has a really cool ending that leaves you wanting more. So it's cool. I hope they keep going with this and keep making this. It's an interesting like world that they picked with this. So it's really good.
There's a lot of really cool. I just did a search for grease pencil blender and YouTube, and there's a lot of really cool examples.
Good stuff there.
I'm gonna mess around with this for a second too.
The joke about running it off of a floppy disk, it's super small and it's quite fast. I was complaining about how I don't have a very good computer anymore, but I just launched it and it all seems well so far. I've drawn some doodles.
Look at you.
But I don't know what I'm doing in Blender, so I gotta just figure out how to like tumble and maneuver. I don't know what I'm doing. But I did find out how to draw some lines.
Whatchamacallit? If you go to a Microsoft store, they have the Microsoft Surface, the big desktop computer. And as a sample, they have I don't know what they call it, but you can draw things and then you place it in 3D and then you can move a camera around a lot like this. But let's see what Jack is doing. We got to do software deep dives and
so
stuff.
Okay, Charlie.
Yes.
Total newbie question. How in the hell do I just orbit?
You're gonna ask me.
For real?
I have to remember.
Because it's not. There's no Alt Shift middle mouse. Nothing.
No,
obvious.
It's Q. It's no W, E, or R. One of those.
Okay, look. So I drew a 2D face on a 2D surface, a cube, and then so it basically puts it, on the plane of that camera. So, you have your cubes and whatnot in your 3D environment, and then you can draw your character right on it with a moving camera. You could reuse it frame to frame. You can rotate, manipulate, all that cool stuff. So, but yeah, but if you, we're talking about the quality of it.
Yeah,
okay.
So I guess it could be.
Because you don't even know how to zoom in. Ooh, look at that!
Whoa!
I'm manipulating some lines.
Yeah.
So
because like I said,
and it turns it into splines.
It's splines. It's splines. That's what it is. It's like it's like the line tool in Max, but it looks like it's drawing.
Right. You got little points on it.
So like if you change over to like the sculpting, that's why when you saw in the video, they were like using like their brush or whatever, or manipulate like you did, selecting those eyes, and they can like move it because it's kind of like.
So this is the cool part about this, because I'm a big fan of mashups. When you have the 2D, 2D characters with 3D backgrounds. Now you can actually draw a 3D background, or not draw, but like build a 3D background, and then have your 2D character walking through that. Oh, that's dangerously cool.
Let me give you.
And you can change the brush type.
Yeah, I'm assuming in their online community they've got other downloads, but it comes with these couple of different ones. I don't know the hotkey yet, so I'm gonna keep.
There you go, Jared.
So, but as you can see, there are these artifacts. So we've got these kind of weird shapes that it's creating. which is where we're talking about kind of the limitations of the hardware or of the software itself. But there are quite a bit of controls about how to control it, and then because it is an actual 3D object, I'm sure there's a billion ways to manipulate it once it exists.
So everything happens off your middle click. So shift plus middle click and drag.
What if your mouse is just one big button?
Yeah, get off of
Get off that. That's the first thing I did when I got a Mac.
Get off of your Mac.
That's
Control
the biggest
plus
thing Mac
middle
does
click.
wrong.
So control plus middle click and drag is zoom. Right click is select. Now, if you want it, Jack, to be more like Maya, I can tell you how to get all the Maya hockey set up.
That is so cool.
That is exactly what I need, actually. So I'm assuming that, see, I know nothing about Blender. This is the first time.
So it's at the top left hand.
So now that this exists, I'm assuming I can actually change the style of it. Yeah, as an object.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was an E. ER. What is it? One to rotate. So like Blender, the other thing with Blender, I tell Wes all this, the owner of CG Cookie all the time, is Blender be amazing. I use it every day. If I don't have to, when I have to go back, and if I say I had to teach a Blender class, I'd have to start on Monday. So by Saturday, I'm good. I remember all the little quirks. Because it doesn't follow the WASD or, the WER like setup. Right. Its hotkeys are totally different than any 3D program out there.
Yeah, they are.
Which makes it like difficult to like remember. I think I have Blender on here. So, but kind of I've done it enough where it's like riding a bike, but having to fall down for a week.
So how are you gonna make? Okay, come on, Blender.
Exactly.
How are you gonna make?
Exactly.
Zoom out. Okay, hold on. Zoom in and out is control middle mouse. Fine.
Right.
Shift is track with middle mouse, but then to orbit you got to go way up to R. No, E. Where was I?
W or O or Q.
Q. Like how you gonna? That's.
Yo, they made right click select.
Oh my god!
So what I they threw out so many basic software conventions just like right out the window.
So what I usually did was switch my right click to my left click. So if you go to file,
what is this for like left hand people? What's going on?
File preferences.
Where is file? Oh, in there. Yeah, see, they didn't even do that. They got the. That's because it's on the Mac.
And then there should be a preference one. I gotta get. I'm gonna get down.
Yeah, user prefs. All right, I'm just gonna get my minus.
Because Wes always used to tell me, a couple other guys used to tell me, just learn the default. I'm like, but it sucks. Yeah. The default. But I forced myself to do. So I'm gonna tell you to do the same thing. Don't switch it to the Maya.
Let's do artist inspiration so we can dig a little deeper.
Yeah. If you can get past that,
it's getting to be that time anyway.
I think I'm gonna have to do a live sketch zone live. We'll have to do the Twitch live stream on a Friday or something.
You're the inspiration. You bring feeling to my life. You're the inspiration.
Wanna have you hear me? All right, y'all. So let's take a look at Nyan Pham. Nyan Pham. He did all of this using Blender grease pencil.
Yo, I did him one.
Right.
Just kidding. Did you?
Yeah.
Did he really?
No, I'm lying. Just kidding.
Oh,
no, did this guy really do that?
No, it wasn't. No, I was kidding. I'm a jerk. But it's things like this that make me go, aw.
Man, she's gonna get slapped in the face by those wings like a billion times a second. It's like
that's so funny. And that's the animation you want to do. That's the animation you want to do with it.
She gets off of the hummingbird's back, and she's got like black eyes and like
black eyes. You see it forming after like the first two hits.
So yeah, I've been on this concept artist tip for a little bit. Yeah.
That's what you want, though. If you can get that level of like drawing a still frame in Blender, then you can animate that. Oh, snap. Now they got something.
Right. That would be banana. Even something like this. Like if you could pull this off in Blender, like it would be bananas.
I'm totally okay for it to take forever to make that frame.
So when people say toon render, if your toon render doesn't look like this, it's hot trash. Keep it. Nobody wants it. For that, do it in Photoshop.
Have you guys seen the Photoshop 3D engine?
Yeah. So that suffers from the same issue that I think we're talking about, but in reverse.
Yeah.
It's
throw that out there.
I feel like there's like 6 people across the world, and they're all graphic designers that are like, I'm gonna put this on a Coke can. I'm gonna put my label on a Coke can.
Yeah.
No, not even that. The actual 3D engine in Photoshop.
Yeah.
Not that other like wasn't that didn't they make another program?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's like a standalone one. Yeah.
Called it's called not Prelude.
Pray.
Yeah.
Pray.
Ooh, what's it called?
Pray you stick around in a year.
I have it in Dimensions. Adobe Dimensions. Yeah. That's actually it's pretty cool for what it is.
It is.
I don't know if look at the big troll's got a boo-boo. Yeah, so this dude is just phenomenal. And then he gets on his DaCosta tip too.
That
Here's
figurines.
a bunch of robots for you.
All right, let me see here.
Chocolate Cube.
Okay.
RoboJam. His stuff is not as tight and finished as DaCosta's, but yeah, take a look at actually it's an art station. See, look at this. This rendering is amazeballs. Uh-oh, look at that. Adding some adding some Blender grease pencil animation in there.
Some lighting.
So good.
Yeah, you have to figure out how to feel.
So yeah, we'll add the link as always, but it's artstation.com/Zevania. Zevania. Take a look. My man be crushing that Photoshop, son. Got a little girl on a giant bird. She's reaching for diabetes. Go ahead.
Diabetes. Diabetes.
Oh, you got that diabetes. Ain't nobody got time for that. Charles, it's on you, son.
Yeah, looking for mine.
Inspiration.
Bring meaning. Give me 1 hot minute where I just stare at chat screen.
All right. While you do that, I'm going to show this one because this one is really cool too. Bam! Come on, son. Look at that. Just goodness. Makes me... I'm gonna have to recolor mine.
Okay, I'm finding mine.
Don't worry.
Where is it? I don't usually lose it. Where is it?
Look at this big gorilla holding people in the air.
Or is he eating people?
Never know. He might be vegan. Don't judge.
Oh, I did have it really.
He only eats vegans.
They got that good protein.
That good.
You ready?
Yeah, I lost my link.
Should I go?
Go ahead, you go, because I lost my link the last second here. It's throwing me off.
Okay, speaking of grease pencil, we're going to do it. So this guy by the name of Tanako Pantoja, he's a 2D artist, mostly does character and a lot of animation stuff. Pretty cool style. It's very painter, kind of like what we were just talking about. It lends itself really well to this Blender look. It's a little bit rough, a little bit sketchy, especially the line quality is kind of rough. He's been featured and has been doing some animation work for Tanako House. If you haven't seen that, the Dam Keeper, in all their other shorts. But one of the cool things he does, I mean, aside from just having pretty cool skill at illustration and kind of a comic book style, he does a lot of animation, and he likes to. This is what caught me: is he likes to put his characters in a little video location that he's been at. Let me find. There's a couple more.
That's awesome. I was trying to do that. I was trying to do that too. So when I was at CTN, I kept recording like just random spots because I want to have monsters running by.
Okay, cool.
But it's cool to see someone actually do it.
There's a couple other ones I'm trying to find. But one of the main reasons I brought him up is, and he uses Blender and grease pencil. He's got a couple of demos. This is the one that I saw that kind of caught my eye.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's simple, but it's pretty cool. Very effective. And the cool thing about him, so if you want to find him on Instagram, it's Toniko, Toniko Pantoja. Link will be in the notes. But the cool thing about him is on, where is he at on YouTube? I had this all loaded up. So if you go look him up on YouTube, he actually offers a bunch of free tutorials. Pretty skilled. He's actually worked at DreamWorks. He's obviously worked at Tanaka House. He's kind of been around the studios, so he definitely has the skill. But he's got this series of, I think, 6 videos of basically how to animate. He goes through everything from kind of thumbnail sketch process to doing ink, line work, and then doing. So here's him talking about thumbnails. Here he's actually using Flash. So Carlos, we'll throwback.
Never say never.
So
No, you got to play the one where it crashes.
Oh, I don't have that
That's
one.
my hopes and dreams.
So check him out because he's got these tutorials that are actually really cool. That he breaks down kind of the basics of animation, but he also shows you how to do this effect that we were just talking about, these characters in a real world. He goes through everything from shooting the video and then how to object track it. He uses After Effects. How to format and create a good character that will work in this environment and export it into there. And then, the biggest thing about combining these drawings with real world is the integration and kind of the compositing. So he goes through some simple techniques, how to adjust lighting, how to mimic the effect of some shadows and reflections here. And it's pretty convincing, as you saw the little video. I mean, he tosses down some shadows up on the cabinets here. He does some lighting. It's pretty cool. So check him out. It's Toniko, Toniko.
That's awesome.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to point out that my artist inspiration, I was digging around He did all these drawings in another open source software called Krita,
That's a
K-R-I-T-A.
good one. Creed is a good one.
And I know that Krita also has 2D animation in it. They announced that, or they released that late last year, I want to say. So yet again, if you don't have the $25 or $50 a month for Photoshop, go ahead and take a look at Krita, Krita.
What's that other one everybody's using right now too? Something Studio or something.
Oh, Clip Studio Paint.
Yeah.
That's another good one. People are loving Clip Studio Paint on iPad because apparently it's exactly the same thing as the desktop version.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah. With the menu bars and everything up there. People are digging that. All right, ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do that then.
You have to help me pronounce this name because it's on another level.
Chuck Jones.
All right.
Walt Disney.
Walt Herbert Redford. Okay. Anyway, concept artist this week.
Lulian. This is my favorite part of the show where the three guys just butcher names. We just say it like 1,000 times.
This guy right now is saying, "My name is Mark."
Call me Chidani or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so I love this guy because his artwork's amazing. He's a concept artist. So I went a little bit different. I was gonna go heavy 3D, but I decided not to. And I wanted to find this guy, and that's why, because I couldn't spell his name. I couldn't remember it because I found it at lunch today and got to bookmark it. But he's a concept artist. But like, I am big on like, I've been looking at a website called Lamouche right now. I'm really big on like product design. You know, those guys that can like sketch with the markers and like draw out the product design. Even when I do sketching, as you guys know, I'm a heavily 3D guy. Even when I do sketching, I tend to like to do like very like product designy looking things. But I like when a concept artist really can explain everything, because as an environment artist, when I used to get stuff from our concept department, they would have these detailed things, and like as an environment artist, you're like, no brainer. All I can do is throw music on and like model, because like look at this. This guy goes and look at the detail of like pathing and all this other stuff that you take, and this is where you start and you go all the way around here, you follow it around, you come up here and you to get all the way to the top. And obviously he's writing in like Japanese or whatever. Dude, I can't understand it. Whatever it is, Chinese.
He's actually from China. Yeah,
Chinese. I said that right after I said it too. Sorry. Shanghai actually he's from. But like each one of these, some of these pictures just beautiful pictures, right? If we could make them a little bit bigger there, they're like really cool and detailed work. You know, just really cool stuff. But I love the concept ones, because look at the one for this ship. And this is the one I found originally. It's the one he has in his header, which I think maybe it's one of his favorite ones. I mean, he has a lot of work here, as you can see here, like very like planned out things, which as an artist, I'm just like, okay, cool. You have this beautiful rendered version here at the top here, right? But then here you have your functional version here where it's like flat colors that can actually see the detail. This is the radiator. This is the master control room. This is the fuel tank, the direction of the turbine, the engine, the air inlet, and the refueling. And then you get this off the black market, but then you go with your sketches. Look at the sketches. Like it's like block out stuff, and then even more variations off of what it was from before. And then we're in the same ship classes and stuff. And then you have really nice sketches of this. Like I love his layouts and stuff. It's just, this is why I kind of buy like art of books for like this type of stuff. I thought this is like the simple shape breakdown. Like I'm still trying to figure out what this section's for. I guess construction and how you build these shapes are interesting, but I'm trying to figure out. I wish I could read what this is, to know the relationship he's talking about here. It seems like it's pretty.
Copy it and put it in Google Translate.
Oh, I have to try that. Even if it's an image. And not
is it an image?
It's an image.
Oh. There's another app that you can use, but it's not the time for that right now.
But it's really cool. Let's go down and find something. Look at this. Some of their like environments are just, it's got good scale, got things happening, fight scenes and stuff. It's cool. I like it. I like his stuff a lot. Please check him out because like it's one of those ones where it's worth going through. Like I got tired of scrolling. And we're on ArtStation. Like I got tired of like scrolling down because then you have like look at all this stuff. Matching color palettes. Just detailed stuff. I'm trying to figure out if he does the modeling stuff and then he paints over the modeling or if it's just all drawing. I think it's because the way this stuff is like in perspective will lead me to think that he's doing the whole simple shapes first, whatever like 3D program, and then like painting, like drawing over all this, because like maybe he's just a badass and he's drawing in perspective like this, but I don't think so. And then he has a blog also. Which sometimes they have cooler stuff at the blog. Just sometimes. But probably not. Like, not.
That's another conversation for another time. Like portfolios and how much do you put out there?
Yeah, like look at all that. Yeah, see he has other stuff on here. That's just good stuff.
That's really cool. Wow.
I mean, when everything you put out is just amazing. It's kind of hard to curate and be like, well, this one's better than that one.
You will be at the bottom of the list. I never did like this color hue test that I did. Although it's a pretty image. So there's a lot of stuff here.
I did it over the weekend.
When I was sick. So check it out, guys. That's mine.
Link will be in the show notes. Excellent. And with that being said, hey, Charlie, if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
If you're looking for me, you can find me on my website, which is cargocollective.com/Charlie B. Williams. You can find me on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/CharlieBW3. Twitter, CBW3. Instagram, Charlie B. Almighty Pinterest, where you can find as much inspiration as you can possibly handle and reference, is pinterest.com/CharlieBW3. In your life.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Jack, if people are looking for your work online, where can they find it?
They can find me on sketchbookjack.com and sketchbookjack everywhere else, including, I've deleted my Twitter account.
Whoa.
What?
The purge is beginning, my friends. I've realized I don't use Twitter. What's the point in them getting? I mean, I know they have my info already, but why?
Yeah.
So you can find Sketchbook Jack on, I would say, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, but Instagram, Facebook for now.
He's on Instagram right now. He's been on Instagram a lot.
Yeah, I'm on the Instagram.
Yeah, past Instagram, I don't know if I need anything else.
I thought about that with Twitter. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I can't even. I'm not on Twitter.
Is Instagram like the front page like Twitter is? You know how you can jump on Twitter and like you see like everybody's like. Instagram still seems segmented from. I know they have the Instagram lives and makes it feel like everybody's on it at once. Twitter always felt like the endless stream of like something's happening, but I don't use it. I don't use it though. So
Bunch of nothing.
The thing about Twitter, and this is again for another day, but the thing about Twitter is you can post a message and that's it. Like, unless people are specifically looking for you, if you post something, it just goes down the feed, and there he goes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whereas Instagram, at least with Instagram, they see what you like, and then they make sure that you see it.
Right.
So good, bad, indifferent, I don't know, but that's a talk for another day. Until then, I'm Carlos. You can find me at carlosrgomez.com or coconutjustice.com and Coconut Justice everywhere else. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Behance, Twitch. This is Sketch Zone. You can go to sketch.zone. This is episode 139. And for episode 140, I'm working on something that's pretty cool. Or someone, let me say, that's pretty cool. So yeah, just go to sketch.zone and then you'll see everything. We have all of the previous episodes up there. We have links to our Instagram, our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. Speaking of YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click the subscribe button at the bottom of this video. And then there's a little bell that's right next to that. Click on that too, so you're alerted when we come on. And then if you're on Twitch, the subscribe button is up there. So go ahead and click on that. And speaking of Instagram, if you share your drawing, which this week the fun prompt is Oyster Doorman Tumbling, make sure that you tag us. Don't just at Sketch Zone Podcast. Actually go into the tab that says tag people and tag us, because otherwise it gets lost in our feed. Yeah, past that, we are here. We try to be here every week. And if you can't make it, you can find us on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, and of course on iTunes. That's it for us. Everyone, have a good week.
See you guys.
Guys,
Download Blender.
download it. Do it. Get in your life.
Grease pencil.